Well, hello and welcome to the Statutory. Happy Friday, if it's Friday with you. And thank you so much for coming along and watching my vlog. My name's Jane and I run Snapdragon Life. And this is really a place for collecting together my creative projects and what's happening in the garden and the landscape around us. And really just kind of what I've been doing in the week. And what I've been doing in the week, this week, has been a lot of zooming. So you can see, look, my scarf that I showed last week is now finished. So I'm so pleased with it. I really am so pleased with it because it's very light. It's 107 grams because I was checking that last night so I could write the pattern. And it's just nice and it fits really well. It was really lovely to knit because it's very simple. I really like simple knitting because then I can do it when I'm doing other things, so in the car or bus or watching telly or watching Zooms. And I like that whole kind of repetitive motion. That's what I get out of knitting. So now I'll show you it. It's I actually thought when I was putting it on last night, it would be quite a nice headband if I could work out how to keep it on. Anyway, it is just a loop of knitting that is striped and twisted. And there are only three slightly complicated things about it. You start off with a provisional cast on, which you do with a crochet hook, and that means that the stitches are kind of like live at the bottom, so they're like loops at the bottom but held on a separate bit of thread. And then you knit it on a circular needle. This is a little teeny weeny circular needle, you see. And then that means that you're just going round and round and round and round and round. Now, with it being stripes, if you're going round and round and round and round and round, you tend to go up in a spiral, and that gives you a funny little joggy bit at the beginning of each stripe. So here with this, I just marked where the beginning of each stripe was, just slip a stitch, and now look, you can't see them at all. You can't see where they begin or end. And then the third sort of like technique thing that you do is, because you have the provisional cast on, when you get to the end, you take those out. You have two sets of needles and you kind of graft them together with a grafting stitch, and that makes the join invisible. So you have this loop scarf that has no visible joins, no seams, and just makes into a really nice scarf. And I think it's always a good sign of a useful and enjoyable knitting project if you finish it and then you immediately want to make another one. So I'm going to go down to the studio now and choose some different colours, and I'm going to make myself another one. And the reason for all of this kind of thinking about woolies, when you can see, I mean, this is early in the morning, it's 7:30, and it's nice and sunny, you know. The reason about thinking about these is that this year I want to be much more intentional about the clothes that I have for the winter, autumn and winter. Last year I ended up working up at the house again because it was so cold down in the studio, and what would happen is that I wouldn't be properly dressed, you know, I wouldn't be full of layers and things, and I would get cold, and once I was cold, there was no getting warm, and I was really, really miserable and cold, and I would end up coming up here and heating up the whole house just to keep warm. And that's not going to happen this time. I'm going to actually be working in my studio where I have everything, where it's beautiful setup, but where I have one small wood burning stove to keep it nice and cozy. So partly we're putting out lots of sort of like curtains so I can curtain off a smaller area to heat, but realistically a lot of it was my fault. I let myself get cold and then couldn't warm up. So this year I am going to have lots of things like scarves and hats, fingerless mittens, but I'm also beginning to shop vintage stores, things for really nice cozy layers. I discovered Vinted online, which is like an online second-hand clothes shop where it seems to be people selling off things from their own wardrobe. So if you are looking for something that isn't very trendy, isn't particularly trendy brand, but is good quality classics, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I have been buying some cashmere jumpers so that I can, very fine cashmere jumpers. I've got House of Brewer ones, a couple of Brewer ones, and the average cost of them on Vinted was £9. Now, I would say they are not very nice colours. They're that kind of pale cashmere colour, which is seems to be they do sort of like a creamy grey, or maybe it washes funny, I don't know. But anyway, they're not a nice colour. So I have been dyeing them this week with bracken and willow herb, and just sort of like trying to get something that is going to be those nice autumnal plant-based colours. And I am doing a YouTube video about how to dye cashmere, so hopefully that will be up next week. And in the meantime, why don't I take you down to the studio to see how my patchwork from last week is going, because it is now actually sewn together and up on the wall. And also I'm going to choose some more colours for another scarf just like this. Now you can get the pattern, hopefully by the time this goes out I will have written the pattern up into a downloadable PDF, and I will link that underneath here. I mean, I say pattern, it is very, very simple. I feel a bit of a fraud saying, oh, get my knitting pattern. But anyway, there is the free sort of method for doing a stripy loop scarf is underneath this. Right, let's go and see the garden. colours that I used for this scarf, and you can see that they're actually quite light, bright colours apart from this. And I think that what I particularly like about this one is that it's got this dark grey as the kind of alternating stripe right the way through. So I want to do that again. But if this is the scarf that kind of like goes with this kind of green and things, then I'm wanting a different scarf that will be more of those kind of autumnal and you can hear the tick 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 of my dye pot here. Rusts and khakis and that kind of thing. But I don't want to make it too dark because it's going to be near my face, and I quite like my face not to just be in this reflected shadow. So I have this pile of wools that I have dyed in 4-ply over the year that have no home. You know, there's nothing that I'm thinking, oh, that's for that project. So these are up for this, but there isn't enough of any of them to do a stripe right the way through. So what I'm thinking of is that I will use these, which were from my grand's stash. They are Eron Knitting 3-ply. There we go, pure new wool. So this is what's going to be the equivalent of that one. And then in between that, I want to pick another 1, 2, 3, 4 shades that will work with it. And so we've got the brown there, and I'm probably going to want these greens, count them as 1, and these kind of, what do you even call that, caramel colour, 2, something warmer, maybe that, 3, and then maybe it is a nice yellow. I will try out the yellow and see what that looks like in a swatch. That's another green. I do think it needs some kind of brightness, but not that coolness. So I'm going to take these away, try out a swatch for it, and I'll let you see it. It might be next week that I let you see it. And in the meantime, a look at the wall. So this was the word one that I had begun last week, and I have sewn them up with the white border around it just to double check that that's what I'm wanting to do. And then the next one that I'm going to do is with cleavers, sticky willow, which turns out to be beautiful botanical dye print, contact print, and it gives these wonderful kind of spare branches with tiny bobbly seed heads. So Teasel is now covered in these, which he's got from inside the studio, which is probably not a good idea. But that's going to be the next one. And then it will go up on the wall. I feel very grown up having a quilt on the wall. So I'm going to go away, try out a swatch for this new scarf variation, and then hopefully I will have the pattern up for when I post this. And then I'm going to come back down and film. This is my pot here that I am soaking a cashmere jumper in. This is my, this was £8 actually, £8 cashmere jumper, and the dot 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 of the dye pot is the roseberry willow herb in there. So I'll also come back for them.